What kind of man smiles for the camera at his own graduation while the row reserved for his family sits empty? How do you stay calm when your wife and kids skip the biggest moment of your life to post photos from a cookout instead? By the time her "we need to talk" text appeared above 45 missed calls, I already knew the truth, and I already knew what I was going to do. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The auditorium buzzed with voices, laughter, the rustle of programs. Hundreds of people packed into rows of folding chairs under fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out and clinical. I sat in the third row from the stage, sandwiched between strangers who kept glancing over their shoulders, waving at parents, siblings, grandparents. Everyone had someone. I checked my phone for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Nothing, no texts, no calls, just the home screen photo of Mara and the kids from last Christmas, all of them smiling at something off camera, something that wasn't me. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The ceremony will begin in 5 minutes. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers as the crowd settled. I looked back at the section marked with a handwritten sign, Holt family. 4 empty chairs, 4 seats that said everything about what I was worth to them. The woman beside me leaned over. "Are your people running late?" "Traffic," I said with a smile that hurt. She nodded and turned back to her own family, laughing, sharing photos, enjoying the day together. I opened Instagram. Mara had posted 40 minutes ago from Nolan's backyard. Drinks, sunshine, my daughter posing with cousins, a caption that read, "Perfect weather for a perfect Saturday." 17 comments. Hearts, compliments. My graduation ceremony was at 2. They'd known the date for months. I'd reminded them twice a week. The dean stepped onto the stage. "Today we honor those who worked full-time jobs while studying, those who proved it's never too late to build a better future." The crowd applauded. Families shouted for their graduates. Mine grilled burgers without me. I thought about my 22 months of night classes, 47 Saturdays spent studying, $16,000 paid from barbershop earnings, money Mara called wasted on that going-nowhere job. Then my name hit the speakers. Aaron Holt. I stood. The empty row behind me seemed to glow as I walked to the stage. Other families cheered their own, none cheered mine. The dean shook my hand. "Outstanding work this year." The photographer said, "Big smile." I gave him one somehow. Back in my seat, I checked my phone. Mara had posted again, Nolan flipping burgers, muscles showing. Caption, "Big Bro cooking up a feast." She'd been calling him Big Bro for months, like he was the real man of the family. The ceremony dragged on. People cried, cheered, hugged. Everyone had support, everyone except me. When it ended, the courtyard filled with families taking photos under the "Congratulations Class of 2025" banner. I walked past them unseen, holding my diploma like a prop from someone else's life. The parking lot was worse. Champagne popping, flowers handed out, kids holding signs that said, "We're proud of you." I sat in my truck. A single text from Mara popped up. "How was it?" 3 words. That was the extent of her investment in my achievement. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the crowded campus coffee shop. Families celebrated loudly inside. One mother kept touching her daughter's face, telling her over and over how proud she was. My phone buzzed again. Now it was a cascade of messages from Mara. "Where are you?" "Aaron, we need to talk." "Why aren't you answering?" "This is ridiculous." I set the phone face down and drank my bitter coffee. When I picked it up again, I had 45 missed calls. I didn't need to hear her voice to know what she wanted, and I already knew exactly what I was going to do next. The house was dark when I got home. Not bedtime dark, but empty dark. I turned on the kitchen light and took in the mess they'd left behind. Breakfast dishes stacked in the sink, Tessa's textbooks scattered on the counter, Jamie's basketball shoes in the middle of the floor. On the wall calendar, today's date was crossed out with a thick black line, as if it hadn't mattered at all. Around 8, the garage door rumbled open. Voices, laughter. They came in loud, glowing with leftover energy from Nolan's cookout. "Oh, you're here," Mara said when she saw me at the table. She set her purse down and kicked off her sandals. "How was the ceremony?" "It was fine." "Good. You should have seen Nolan's spread. Ribs, chicken, bacon-wrapped sausages." Tessa shoved past her mother and grabbed chips from the pantry. "Uncle Nolan's house is way cooler than ours." "Maybe because your uncle has money," Mara said lightly without looking at me. Jamie wandered in, eyes on his phone. "Dad, Uncle Nolan's getting a pool, a huge one." "Sounds expensive." "He can afford it," Mara snapped. Some people actually do well for themselves. I stayed silent. They moved around me like I wasn't there. Tessa went upstairs. Jamie followed. Mara stood at the counter scrolling, smiling at whatever popped up on her screen. "You're mad," she said finally. "Should I be?" "It was just a ceremony, Aaron. You walked across a stage and got a piece of paper. We didn't think it was a big deal." I noticed. "Don't start. Nolan invited us weeks ago. It's not like we planned it to conflict with your thing on purpose." "My thing. Your graduation, whatever." I stood and rinsed dishes. Mara watched for a second, then returned to her scrolling. "Dr. Lorne asked about you," I said. "He asked if my family made it." "What did you tell him?" "That something important came up." She gave a short laugh. "Well, yeah, Nolan's parties matter. You meet people, network, not like your little barber shop where you cut hair for $20. That little barber shop paid for the ceremony you skipped." "Oh, here we go." She slammed her phone down. "You think you're a hero because you went back to school? You're 44, Aaron. Most people finish in their 20s. Most people have families who support them." "Support you? I've supported you for 20 years. Me and Nolan keep this family running while you pretend your barber shop is meaningful." There it was, me and Nolan. Their team, not mine. "Get some sleep," I said. "We'll talk tomorrow." "There's nothing to talk about." She headed upstairs, leaving her bottle for me to put away. I stood in the quiet kitchen long after she was gone. The house creaked, neighbors' TVs glowed through backyard windows. Ordinary families living ordinary lives. My phone buzzed. A text from Victor, one of my regulars. "Congrats on graduating. Saw the school's photos. You looked sharp." I opened the college's social media page. They'd posted a gallery. I found mine, me on stage, shaking Dr. Lorne's hand, smiling like everything was fine. And behind me, that empty row. 4 chairs. No family. Scrolling down, I saw a comment that hit harder than the photo itself. Every graduate had family cheering, even the older ones. This kind of achievement deserves better. I screenshotted it and saved it into the folder I'd been keeping for months. Notes, dates, small things that didn't matter alone but added up to something undeniable. Something that had been building for a long, long time. Like the time Mara and the kids went to Nolan's lake house for a weekend without inviting me. Or when Tessa's school play fell on my birthday and everyone went to Nolan's steakhouse afterward, everyone except me, because Mara said I probably had to work early the next day anyway. Or the Christmas card from last year that Nolan had framed in his hallway. Our whole family standing in front of his fireplace. Me on the far edge, almost cropped out of the shot. I added today's date to the list. Wrote down what happened. Saved the screenshot of the graduation photo. Then I went down to the basement, to the corner where I kept old boxes from when we first bought the house. Underneath the holiday decorations and the kids' baby clothes, I found what I was looking for. A plastic tub labeled Important Documents. Inside were the original papers from the barbershop. The lease agreement I'd signed 12 years ago. The business license, tax returns, receipts for equipment. A folder marked expansion plans that I'd put together 5 years ago and never followed through on because Mara said it was too risky. I pulled out the lease renewal paperwork. It was due in 6 months. I'd gotten the notice last week, but I hadn't signed anything yet. The landlord had given me a good deal, option to renew or option to purchase the property outright if I could come up with a down payment. At the bottom of the pile was something I'd almost forgotten about. A letter from the Small Business Association, dated 2 years ago, approving me for a consultation on expansion opportunities. I'd never followed up because Mara had made it clear she thought I was wasting everyone's time. I took photos of everything with my phone, then I put it all back exactly how I found it and went upstairs. In bed, Mara was already asleep or pretending to be. I lay next to her in the dark, listening to her breathe, and thought about that empty row. 4 chairs. 4 people who couldn't be bothered to show up. I'd spent 2 years working toward that diploma. 2 years of night classes after 12-hour shifts at the shop. 2 years of studying while my family watched TV in the other room. 2 years of being told I was wasting my time, that nobody cared about a late-life degree, that I should just accept my place and stop trying to be something I wasn't, and when the moment finally came, they couldn't even give me 2 hours. But they had time for Nolan's cookout. They had time to pose for photos and eat expensive ribs and talk about his new pool. I closed my eyes and made a decision. Not an angry one, not a dramatic one, just a simple, clear decision about what came next. I was done being invisible in my own life. Monday morning at the shop was busy. Victor came in first, like always, settling into the chair with a newspaper and a coffee from the place next door. "So, tell me about Saturday," he said while I draped the cape around his shoulders. "How'd it feel?" It felt like exactly what it was. Victor looked at me in the mirror. He was 55, retired from the post office, with gray hair he kept military short and sharp eyes that didn't miss much. That bad? They didn't come. Who didn't come? Any of them. Mara, the kids, nobody. Victor was quiet for a moment while I started trimming around his ears. Where were they? My brother's cookout. Jesus, Aaron. Yeah. What did you say to them? Not much. Mara said it wasn't a big deal, just a ceremony. Victor shook his head slowly. Man, you deserved better than that. Those words sat in the air between us. I kept cutting, the scissors making their steady rhythm while customers came and went through the front door. The bell chimed with each arrival, and I nodded at the familiar faces. Gary from the hardware store, Tom, who worked at the tire shop, Miguel, who drove trucks for a living. You know what the worst part was? I said quietly, working on Victor's fade. I wasn't even surprised. Like somewhere deep down, I already knew they wouldn't show up. That's worse than being surprised, Victor said. That means you've accepted it. Maybe I have. Or maybe you shouldn't. I moved to the other side of his head, focusing on keeping the lines clean. The shop smelled like aftershave and the coffee Victor had brought in. Through the window, I could see people walking by with their Monday morning routines, heading to work, checking phones, living their lives. My daughter had an event at her school last week, I said. End-of-year thing, award ceremony. I got there early, found a seat in the third row. Good spot where I could see the stage. Then Mara showed up with Nolan and his wife, and she told me that seat was saved for family. Victor's eyes met mine in the mirror. You are family. Not the right kind, apparently. I ended up standing in the back. Aaron, it's fine. I'm used to it. But I wasn't fine, and Victor knew it. He'd been coming to my shop since I opened it 12 years ago. He'd watched my kids grow up through the photos on the wall. He'd heard about every milestone, every disappointment, every moment that Mara or Nolan had somehow managed to turn into something about them instead of me. How long's this been going on? He asked. Depends on how you count it. Little things at first. Forgetting to invite me to stuff. Making plans without checking with me. Acting like my work didn't matter because I wasn't pulling six figures like Nolan. I paused, cleaning up the neckline. But it's gotten worse the last year or so. Ever since I started taking classes. They didn't want you to improve yourself. They didn't want me to change the dynamic. As long as I stayed the quiet guy who cuts hair and pays the bills and doesn't rock the boat, everything worked. But the second I tried to do something for myself, it became a problem. Victor was quiet while I finished up, brushing the loose hair off his shoulders and showing him the back with the hand mirror. He nodded approval, and I removed the cape. You're too calm about this, he said, standing up. That worries me more than if you were angry. I am angry, just not the loud kind. He pulled out his wallet and handed me $30 for a $20 cut. Keep it. And Aaron, people like that don't stop. They escalate. Whatever you're thinking about doing, you better think it through. After Victor left, I had 3 more customers before lunch. Between cuts, I pulled out my phone and searched for something specific. Family law attorneys in the area. Not because I was planning anything concrete yet, just because information was power, and I was done being powerless. That afternoon, Tessa came into the shop after school. She didn't usually visit, said the place smelled weird and all my customers were old guys, but she needed money for something with her friends. $40, she said, not quite looking at me. For what? Movies, and dinner after. Where's the money I gave you last week? She shrugged. Gone. On what? Stuff? Does it matter? Now she looked at me, and there was something in her expression that reminded me of Mara. That impatience, like I was wasting her time by existing. Are you going to give it to me or not? I pulled 2 20s from my wallet and handed them over. She took them without saying thank you and turned to leave. How was school? I asked. Fine. Tessa. She stopped but didn't turn around. What? Sit down for a minute. I have to meet my friends. 2 minutes? She sighed dramatically and dropped into the waiting chair, already texting on her phone. I finished cleaning my station and sat down across from her. Did you see the photos from Saturday? I asked. What photos? From my graduation. Oh, she kept texting. Yeah, I think Mom shared something. I looked for you guys. We were at Uncle Nolan's. I know where you were. Finally, she looked up. Are you seriously going to make this into a whole thing? It was important to me. It was a community college graduation, Dad. It's not like you got a PhD or something. The words came out so casually, so dismissively, that for a second I couldn't respond. This was my daughter, 17 years old, about to be a senior in high school. I'd been there for every one of her moments. Every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every birthday party, every late-night homework crisis, and she couldn't be bothered to give me 2 hours. "You're right," I said finally. It wasn't a PhD, just 2 years of night school after working all day. Just $16,000 and hundreds of hours of studying. Just the biggest accomplishment of my adult life. "You're right, not important at all." She rolled her eyes. "Don't guilt-trip me. Mom said you'd do this." "What else did Mom say?" "That you're being sensitive about the whole thing. That we shouldn't feel bad just because you decided to go back to school at your age." At my age, like 44 was ancient. Like wanting to better myself was somehow pathetic. "Your friends are waiting," I said. "You should go." Tessa stood up, already back on her phone. She was halfway to the door when she turned back. "Are you going to tell Mom about this conversation?" "Would it matter if I did?" She thought about it for a second. "Probably not." Then she left, the bell chiming behind her. I sat alone in the shop, the sound of traffic outside mixing with the hum of the refrigerator in the back room. On the wall across from me was a photo from 5 years ago. Me and the kids at the beach, all of us smiling, building a sandcastle together. Jamie couldn't have been more than 9. Tessa was still at that age where hanging out with Dad wasn't embarrassing yet. When had it changed? When had I become the person they tolerated instead of loved? My phone buzzed, a text from Mara. "Did you give Tessa money? You need to stop spoiling her. She doesn't appreciate it." I almost laughed. Spoiling her? Right. That was the problem. I closed the shop early and drove across town to the storage facility where I kept the overflow from the house. Old furniture, boxes of stuff we never used but couldn't throw away, the filing cabinets with business records going back years. It took me 20 minutes to find the box I was looking for. Inside were the original purchase documents for the house. The title, the mortgage papers, the closing statements. Everything was in my name, just mine. We'd bought the place before we got married, and I'd never added Mara to the title because our lawyer at the time said it was simpler to keep it separate for tax purposes. I'd forgotten about that detail until now. There were other things, too. Old bank statements showing deposits I'd made over the years, receipts for renovations I'd paid for, a folder with investment account information that I'd set up through the shop, small monthly contributions that had grown into something substantial. I took photos of everything and put the boxes back. Then I drove to the high school for Jamie's track meet. The bleachers were packed with parents cheering for their kids. I found a spot near the top and watched Jamie run the 400-meter. He came in 4th, which was good for him. When he crossed the finish line, I stood up and clapped, but he didn't look up into the stands. After the race, I waited by the fence while kids collected their gear and hugged their parents. Jamie came over with his duffel bag, sweaty and red-faced. "Good race," I said. "I could have done better." "You'll get there." He nodded but didn't say anything else. We walked to the truck in silence. "Your sister came by the shop today," I said once we were on the road. "Yeah? She needed money." "She always needs money." "Do you need anything?" Jamie looked out the window. "No." "Jamie, what?" "Look at me." He turned slowly, and I saw his mother in his face. Same eyes, same stubborn set to his jaw. "I know you'd rather have been at Uncle Nolan's on Saturday," I said, "but it would have meant something to me if you'd been there. Mom said it wasn't mandatory." "It wasn't, but that's not the point." "Then what is the point?" I took a breath. "The point is that I've been there for every single one of your moments. Every track meet, every basketball game, every school event. And when I asked for 2 hours, nobody could make it." Jamie was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Uncle Nolan's pool is going to be really cool." That was it. That was all I got. His uncle's pool was cooler than his father's graduation. I dropped him at home and drove back to the shop. It was dark inside, quiet, just me in the chairs and the smell of aftershave that had soaked into everything over the years. This was mine. I'd built it from nothing. Every customer, every dollar, every reputation I'd earned, it was all me. Not Mara, not Nolan, not anyone else, just me. And I was tired of pretending that wasn't enough. Tuesday morning, Victor came back to the shop. He wasn't due for a cut. I'd just seen him yesterday. But he walked in anyway and sat in one of the waiting chairs. "I've been thinking," he said. "About what?" "About what you told me yesterday." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I got divorced about 10 years ago. Did I ever tell you that?" "You mentioned it once." "Worst experience of my life. But you know what made it worse? I waited too long. Stayed in a situation that was destroying me because I thought things might get better. They never do, not on their own. I was sweeping up from the last customer, not sure where this was going. The thing is, Victor continued, people will treat you exactly as badly as you let them, and once they've gotten away with it long enough, they start to believe they're entitled to treat you that way. It becomes normal. I'm not following. Yes, you are. He stood up and walked over to where I was working. You're a smart guy, Aaron. Smarter than you give yourself credit for. But you've spent so long being the steady one, the reliable one, that everyone forgot you're a person with needs, too. So what do you suggest? I suggest you stop letting them walk all over you. Not with drama, not with anger, with strategy. My ex-wife thought she'd get the house, the car, half my pension. You know what she actually got? Exactly what the law said she deserved, which was a lot less than she expected. Because I had a good lawyer, and I had documentation of everything. I stopped sweeping. You think I should get a lawyer? I think you should get information. Knowledge is leverage, and right now you're operating blind while they're running circles around you. He left after that, but his words stayed with me through the rest of the morning. Between customers, I made a call to a law office I'd found online. The receptionist answered on the second ring. Law offices of Trent and Associates. Hi, I'd like to schedule a consultation. Certainly. What type of legal matter? I hesitated. Family law, property protection. I can get you in with Ms. Trent on Thursday afternoon. 2 o'clock work for you? That's perfect. She took my information and confirmed the appointment. When I hung up, I felt something shift in my chest. Not relief exactly, but a sense of forward motion, like I'd been stuck in place for years, and now I'd finally taken a step. That afternoon, I went to the bank, the same branch where Mara and I had our joint accounts, where our mortgage was held, where everything financial lived in one complicated tangle. The manager, David Chen, greeted me at the door. We'd worked together when I first opened the shop, and he'd always been helpful with business accounts. Aaron, haven't seen you in a while. What can I do for you? I need to talk about my accounts. Sure, come on back. His office was small and neat, with family photos on the desk and diplomas on the wall. He pulled up my information on his computer and scrolled through. What specifically did you want to discuss? I want to open a new personal account, just in my name. David looked up. Everything okay? Everything's fine. Just want to separate some business expenses from household stuff. He nodded, not quite believing me, but professional enough not to push. We can absolutely do that. I'll need some basic information, and we can have it set up by the end of the week. Can we do it today? Today? I have everything you need. License, social security card, proof of address. David studied me for a moment. Then he pulled out the necessary forms and started typing. 20 minutes later, I had a new checking account with only my name on it. No joint access, no authorized users. Transfer $1,000 from the business account to start, I said. Done. Anything else? Yes. I want to review the mortgage and the joint accounts, just to understand where everything stands. David pulled up more screens. Your mortgage is current. Joint checking has about $8,000. Joint savings has $12,000. Your business account... He paused. Your business account is quite healthy, actually. Almost $40,000. I'd known it was somewhere in that range, but hearing the number out loud felt different. Who has access to the business account? I asked. According to our records, just you. And the joint accounts? You and Mara both have full access. I thought about that. $40,000, that was mine alone. $20,000, that was technically ours, but mostly funded by me. And a house that was solely in my name. Can you print out statements for all accounts for the last year? I asked. Sure, give me a few minutes. While he printed, I sat there and felt the shape of something forming. Not a plan exactly, but the outline of one. The pieces were there, I just needed to arrange them correctly. David handed me a stack of papers. Here you go. Is there anything specific you're looking for? Just want to understand my finances better. Smart. A lot of people don't look at this stuff until it's too late. Back at the shop, I went through the statements during the slow afternoon hours. Every transaction, every deposit, every withdrawal. Patterns emerged quickly. The business account was clean, just shop income and expenses. But the joint checking told a different story. Regular withdrawals from Mara, sometimes 2 or 3 a week, always for household expenses that seemed to be getting larger. A lot of transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Some to Nolan's wife's name. I made notes. Dates, amounts, account numbers. Nothing illegal, but definitely a pattern of spending that didn't match what I thought was happening. My phone rang. Mara. Where are you? She asked. At the shop. You need to come home. Jamie's upset. About what? Just come home. I closed the shop early and drove back to the house. Inside, Jamie was sitting on the couch with Mara next to him, her arm around his shoulders. Tessa was there too, looking uncomfortable. What's going on? I asked. Tell him, Mara said to Jamie. Jamie stared at the floor. Uncle Nolan said he'd help me train for next season. Like personal coaching. He used to run track in college. Okay. But he wants me to come stay at his place for a few weeks this summer, like a training camp. I looked at Mara. And you said yes? I said I'd talk to you about it first. You mean you want me to say yes so Jamie doesn't blame you when things go wrong? Don't be paranoid. I'm not paranoid. I'm realistic. Nolan loves playing hero for my kids. But where is he when they actually need something consistent? Where was he when Jamie broke his ankle last year and needed rides to physical therapy? That's not fair, Tessa said. What's not fair? You're making Uncle Nolan sound bad just because you're jealous. The word hit me harder than it should have. Jealous. Like that's what this was about. I'm not jealous, I said quietly. I'm watching my family choose someone else over me every single time they have the option. Mara stood up. Here we go again. Everything is about you. Your feelings, your graduation, your hurt pride. Mom's right, Tessa said. You're being selfish. I looked at the three of them, my wife, my daughter, my son, and realized that somewhere along the way I'd become the villain in my own family's story. The problem wasn't that they'd skipped my graduation, or that they preferred Nolan's company, or that they treated me like a walking ATM. The problem was that I had feelings about it. Jamie can go, I said, if that's what he wants. Really? Jamie's face lit up. Really? Mara smiled, satisfied. See, that wasn't so hard. I went upstairs without responding. In the bedroom, I pulled out my laptop and opened the folder where I'd been keeping notes, added today's date, wrote down what happened. Then I opened a browser and searched for something specific. Divorce laws in our state, property division, child custody, business ownership in dissolution. I wasn't planning anything yet, just gathering information. Knowledge was leverage, Victor had said, and I was tired of having none. Thursday afternoon, I closed the shop at 1:30 and drove to Callie Trent's office. The building was older, red brick with tall windows, tucked between a coffee shop and an accounting firm in the downtown area. The waiting room was quiet and professional. Leather chairs, magazines nobody read, a receptionist who smiled when I walked in. Aaron Holt? That's me. Ms. Trent will see you in just a moment. I sat down and tried not to think too hard about what I was doing. This was just information gathering. Just questions. Nothing had been decided. Mr. Holt? A woman appeared in the doorway. Early 30s, dark suit, sharp eyes behind thin-framed glasses. I'm Callie Trent. Come on back. Her office was organized chaos. Files stacked neatly on every surface, a whiteboard covered in case notes, law books lined up like soldiers along the wall. She gestured to a chair across from her desk and sat down. So, she said, opening a legal pad, tell me what's going on. I started with the graduation. Told her about the empty chairs, the cookout at Nolan's place, the photos posted online while I walked across that stage alone. Then I backed up and filled in the context. Years of being marginalized in my own family, of being treated like my work didn't matter, of watching my brother slowly replace me in their lives. Callie listened without interrupting, taking notes occasionally. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me directly. How long have you been feeling like this? Honestly? Years. But it got worse when I started taking classes. Because you were trying to improve yourself. Because I was breaking the pattern. I wasn't supposed to want more. She nodded like she'd heard this story before. Let me ask you something. What do you want out of this meeting? Because I can help you in a lot of different ways, but I need to know what your goal is. I want to protect what's mine. What's yours specifically? The barber shop, the business, the house. It's only in my name. Some investments I've made over the years. Are you considering divorce? The word hung in the air between us. I'd been thinking it for weeks, but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real. I don't know, I said. Maybe. Okay, let me tell you what I see. She flipped back through her notes. You own a business outright. You have a house in your name only. You've been the primary breadwinner for years. Your wife and children have been systematically devaluing your contributions while elevating another family member, your brother, who has no legal standing in your household. That sounds about right. Here's the thing. If you decide to pursue separation or divorce, you're in a relatively strong position. The business is yours, the house is yours, and the money you've earned is largely traceable to your work. Your wife would be entitled to some assets, of course, but not nearly as much as she probably thinks. What about custody? The kids are 17 and 14. At their ages, the court would take their preferences into account, but that doesn't mean they get to decide everything. You're their father. You've supported them their entire lives. That matters. I sat back in the chair, processing. So what do I do? First, you document everything. Every instance of being excluded, every financial transaction, every conversation where your contributions were diminished. I need dates, times, details. I've already started doing that. Good. Second, you protect your assets. Open separate accounts, which it sounds like you've done. Make sure your business finances are completely separate from household finances. Third, you don't make any sudden moves. No confrontations, no dramatic announcements. You stay calm and you build your case. And then? And then, when you're ready, you file. But only when you're ready and only when you have everything in place. Because once you start this process, there's no going back. I left her office with a folder full of paperwork and a list of things to do. Document, protect, prepare. It felt almost mechanical, clinical. Not like ending a marriage, but like solving a problem. Maybe that's what it had become. A problem that needed solving. That evening, I went to Victor's place. He lived in a small house on the east side of town, just him and a cat named Boxer, who weighed about 20 pounds. Victor handed me a beer, and we sat on his back porch while the sun went down. "You went to see a lawyer," he said. It wasn't a question. "How'd you know?" "Because you've got that look, like you've seen the edge and you're deciding whether to jump." "It's not jumping, it's planning." "Same thing." He took a long drink. "So, what did the lawyer say?" I told him everything Callie had laid out. The documentation, the asset protection, the timeline. Victor listened, nodding occasionally. "Sounds like you've got a path forward," he said when I finished. "Does it make me a bad person?" "For what? Protecting yourself?" "For giving up on my family." Victor was quiet for a moment, watching Boxer chase a moth across the yard. "You're not giving up on your family. They gave up on you a long time ago. You're just finally recognizing it." "Mara's going to lose her mind." "Probably, but that's not your problem anymore. And the kids will figure it out eventually. Maybe not right away, but someday they'll look back and understand what really happened. That their father tried everything, and when trying wasn't enough, he chose to respect himself instead of accepting disrespect." I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on the porch railing. The neighborhood was quiet, just the sound of crickets and a dog barking somewhere down the street. "When I opened the shop," I said, "I thought I was building something for all of us. Security, stability, a business I could pass down someday. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being ours and started being just mine. The work was mine, the stress was mine, the responsibility was mine. But the benefits? Those got shared with everyone, especially Nolan. So, take it back. I'm trying." "No," Victor said. "You're planning. That's good, that's smart. But eventually, you're going to have to actually take it back. You're going to have to stand up in front of everyone and say, 'This is mine, not ours.' And that's going to be hard." He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing something and doing something were different things. I drove home around 9. The house was lit up, laughter coming from inside. Through the living room window, I could see Mara and the kids on the couch watching something on TV, normal, happy, like I wasn't even missing. I sat in the truck for a while, just watching them, my family, the people I'd spent 20 years supporting, loving, trying to make proud, and they didn't even notice I wasn't there. My phone buzzed. A text from Callie. "Remember, document everything, even the small things, especially the small things." I took out my phone and opened the Notes app. Wrote down today's date, described coming home to find them watching TV without me, without even asking where I'd been. Then I went inside. Mara looked up when I walked in. "Where were you?" "Out," I said. "Out where?" "Just out." She frowned, but didn't push it. I went upstairs, changed into old clothes, and went down to the basement. The storage tubs were still there, and I pulled out more documents. Old tax returns, investment statements, proof of contributions to retirement accounts, everything that showed where money had come from and where it had gone. I took photos of all of it, uploaded them to a secure cloud folder that only I could access. Then I went back upstairs and acted like everything was normal, because that's what Callie had said to do. Stay calm, don't make waves, build the case quietly. But inside, something had shifted. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. And being done felt like the most honest thing I'd experienced in years. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of slow motion. On the surface, everything continued as normal. I went to the shop, cut hair, made small talk with customers, came home, ate dinner, went through the motions. But underneath, I was building something. Every slight, every dismissal, every moment of being treated like furniture, I documented it. Photos, screenshots, voice memos. I saved text messages where Mara complained about my boring job, or where Tessa said she was embarrassed to tell her friends what I did for a living. I noted every time plans were made without consulting me, every time Nolan's opinion was valued over mine. The joint checking account was interesting. I started watching the transactions more carefully, and a pattern emerged. Mara would transfer money out, sometimes to her personal account, sometimes directly to accounts connected to Nolan's business, always with generic descriptions like household expenses or family matters, but the amounts were too large and too regular to be innocent. I mentioned it to Callie during our second meeting. "How much are we talking?" she asked. "Over the last year, maybe 15,000 that I can track." She made a note. "And your brother's involvement?" "He's been helping Mara with financial planning. That's what she calls it. But it looks more like he's finding ways to funnel our money into his world. We'll need to trace that. It could be considered marital assets being improperly transferred." I also finalized the paperwork for the shop's lease renewal. The landlord had been patient, but he needed an answer. I signed the papers. For purchase, not renewal. Used the business account and some of the investments I'd built up to make the down payment. The property was mine now. The building, the business, everything. Mara didn't know. She didn't ask about the shop anymore, hadn't for years. As far as she was concerned, I was still just paying rent month to month on a failing business that barely kept us afloat. She had no idea the shop cleared $6,000 a month in profit after expenses. No idea that I'd built up a client list that included half the professionals in town. No idea that the property I'd just purchased was worth 3 times what I'd paid for it. Knowledge was leverage. Victor had been right about that. Jamie left for his training camp at Nolan's place. Mara drove him over on a Saturday morning. Came back 3 hours later talking about how amazing Nolan's setup was. The home gym, the pool that was nearly finished, the guest house where Jamie would be staying. "He's really taken Jamie under his wing," she said, making lunch in the kitchen. "It's good for him to have a strong male role model." I was sitting at the table, reading the newspaper, didn't react. "Don't you think?" she pressed. "Sure. You're not even listening." "I heard you. Nolan's a great role model, strong, amazing, all the things I'm not." She slammed the fridge door. "Why do you have to be like this?" "Like what?" "Passive-aggressive, bitter. You used to be different." "I used to be what you wanted me to be." "What's that supposed to mean?" I folded the newspaper and looked at her. Really looked at her. Somewhere along the way, the woman I'd married had turned into someone else. Or maybe she'd always been this person, and I just refused to see it. "It means I'm tired," I said. "I'm tired of being the problem when I'm the only one actually trying to hold this family together." "That's rich coming from you. You're never here emotionally. You're always at that shop or buried in your schoolwork or off doing whatever it is you do. We've had to build a life around your absence." "My absence? I've been right here the whole time. You're the ones who decided I didn't matter." Mara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to be a martyr so bad. Poor Aaron. Nobody appreciates him. Poor Aaron. His family skipped one ceremony." "It wasn't one ceremony. It was 20 years of being second place to your brother in my own house." She went still. "Your brother? He's your brother, Aaron, not mine." "Then why does he have more say in how my kids are raised than I do?" "Because he's present. Because he shows up. Because when the kids need something, he's there, and you're at your precious shop cutting hair for minimum wage." "I make more than minimum wage." "Barely." "Actually," I said quietly, "I make quite a bit more than you think. But you wouldn't know that, because you've never asked. You just assumed that because I'm a barber, I must be failing." She stared at me. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing. Forget it." "No, you said—" "I said forget it, Mara." She stood there for another moment, then grabbed her purse and left. I heard her car start, heard her pull out of the driveway. The house went quiet again. Tessa came downstairs an hour later, headphones around her neck, phone in hand. "You and Mom fighting?" she asked. "Just talking." "Didn't sound like talking." "What did it sound like?" She shrugged. "Like you're trying to make her feel bad about stuff that's not a big deal." "Is that what you think happened?" I think you're being dramatic about graduation still. It was months ago. It was 3 weeks ago. Same thing. I looked at my daughter, 17, almost an adult, but still so young in ways that hurt to see. Tessa, when you graduate next year, I'll be there, front row. No matter what else is happening, I'll be there. You know why? Because you're my dad? Because you'll matter to me more than anything else that day. That's what family does. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Uncle Nolan said you have a problem with him. Of course he did. Do you? My problem isn't with Nolan. It's with how everyone seems to think he's a better version of me. That's not... Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. And you're all so comfortable with it that you don't even see it anymore. Tessa shifted her weight. Uncomfortable. I have to meet my friends. Need money? I'm good. She left, and I sat alone in the kitchen for a long time. The house creaked around me, settling into the afternoon heat. Somewhere in the neighborhood, someone was mowing their lawn. Through the window, I could see the backyard where we used to have cookouts before Nolan built his showcase property, where the kids used to play when they were small and still thought I hung the moon. My phone rang. Victor. You busy? He asked. Not especially. Come by the garage. I want to show you something. Victor's garage was a detached building behind his house, full of tools and half-finished projects. When I got there, he was working on an old motorcycle, grease up to his elbows. This thing hasn't run in 15 years, he said, nodding at the bike. Bought it at an estate sale. Everyone said it was junk, not worth fixing, but I've been taking it apart piece by piece, cleaning everything, replacing what's broken. That sounds expensive. It is, but you know what? It's mine. Every decision about it is mine. And when I get it running, that victory will be mine too. Nobody can take that from me. I understood what he was saying without him having to spell it out. How's the planning going? He asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Almost done. Callie says I'm in good shape legally. The house, the shop, most of the assets, they're protected. And the family? They don't suspect anything. Mara thinks I'm being moody. The kids think I'm pathetic. Everything's normal. Victor looked at me. You okay with all this? I have to be. That's not what I asked. I leaned against the workbench. You know what the hardest part is? It's not the planning or the logistics or even the thought of being alone. It's realizing that I've been alone this whole time and just refused to admit it. That's growth, Victor said. Painful, but growth. Doesn't feel like growth. Feels like failure. Because you're a good man, and good men blame themselves first. But this isn't on you, Aaron. You can't force people to value you. You can only decide whether you're going to keep accepting being devalued. I stayed at Victor's for a few hours, helping him work on the motorcycle, not talking about anything important. It felt good to just exist without having to justify myself or defend my feelings or pretend everything was fine. When I got home that night, the house was empty. A note on the counter said Mara had taken Tessa to the movies. They'd eat out after. I heated up leftovers and ate alone in the kitchen, then went to bed early. In the dark, I thought about Callie's question from our first meeting. What do you want out of this? I wanted respect. I wanted to be seen. I wanted my work and my efforts and my love to mean something. But more than any of that, I wanted to stop feeling like a ghost in my own life. And if that meant burning it all down to build something new, then that's what I'd do. The shop's 12-year anniversary was coming up in 3 weeks. Usually, I'd mark it quietly, maybe a cake in the back room, a thank you to my regular customers. Nothing big. But this year, I decided to do something different. I called Victor from the shop one afternoon between appointments. You remember how you said I should do something for the anniversary? Yeah. I'm going to throw an event. Neighborhood thing, food, drinks, music. Celebrate the shop and the new expansion. New expansion? I bought the property. Planning to renovate the space next door, bring in another barber, maybe add some retail. Been working on it quietly for a while now. Victor was silent for a moment. This is the play. This is the play. You're going to do it all in public. Seemed appropriate. Everyone loves a celebration. I spent the next 2 weeks planning. Hired a food truck to park out front, arranged for a local band to play, printed flyers and handed them out to customers, posted about it on social media, made sure everyone in the neighborhood knew they were invited. At home, I mentioned it casually at dinner. Big event at the shop next Saturday, I said. 12-year anniversary celebration. You guys should come? Mara barely looked up from her phone. We'll see. It's kind of important. I said we'll see. But I knew they'd come. Because Nolan would come. He never missed a chance to be seen at a community event, and where Nolan went, my family followed. I finalized everything with Callie the Tuesday before the event, sat in her office and signed document after document while she explained what each one meant. This formally separates your business assets from marital property. This protects the house. This outlines custody arrangements that prioritize your time with the kids. And this, she slid one final paper across the desk. This is the dissolution filing. Once you submit it, there's a 30-day waiting period before anything becomes official. And if I submit it at the event, then you're making a very public statement about where you stand. That's the idea. She studied me. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. She put all the documents in a folder and handed it to me. Everything's in order. You're free and clear legally. I left her office with the folder in hand and went straight to the shop. Victor was waiting for me, sitting in one of the chairs. It's done? He asked. It's done. How do you feel? Like I'm about to jump off a cliff. You're not jumping, you're landing. The days before the event crawled by. I continued going through the motions at home, dinners, small talk, ignoring Mara's increasingly suspicious looks. Jamie came home from Nolan's place 2 days before the event. He walked in tan and muscular, full of stories about training sessions and pool parties. Dad, you should see Uncle Nolan's gym. It's better than the one at school. I'm sure it is. He said I could come back any time. He's going to help me get recruited for college. That's great, Jamie. He looked at me, confusion in his eyes. You don't care. I care. I'm happy you had a good time. You don't sound happy. I didn't respond. He shook his head and went upstairs. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. Lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through everything that would happen the next day. At 3 a.m, I got up and sat at the kitchen table with the folder Callie had given me. Looked through each document one more time. I thought about that empty row at graduation, those 4 chairs, that moment when I realized that no matter what I did, I would never be enough for the people who were supposed to love me most. My phone buzzed. A text from Victor. You ready? I typed back, ready. Saturday morning came bright and clear. Perfect weather for a party. I was at the shop by 7, setting up tables and chairs. The food truck arrived at 9, the band at 10. By 11, the first guests started showing up. Customers I'd known for years, neighbors from the area, business owners from nearby shops. They came with smiles and congratulations. Victor arrived early, helping me arrange things. Big crowd, he said. Bigger than I expected. By noon, the place was packed. The band was playing. The food truck line stretched down the block, and everywhere I looked, people were celebrating. Mara, Tessa, and Jamie showed up at 12:30. They pushed through the crowd, looking around with surprise. Wow, Tessa said. This is actually pretty cool. Mara found me near the shop entrance. You didn't tell me it would be this big. I told you it was an anniversary event. I thought you meant like 10 people eating cake. Nolan arrived 20 minutes later with his wife and kids. He walked in like he owned the place, shaking hands, introducing himself to people. Aaron. He found me by the food truck. This is great. Didn't know you had it in you. There's a lot you don't know about me. He looked around, calculating. Must have cost a fortune to put this together. The shop's doing well. Yeah? How well? Well enough. Listen, he said, lowering his voice. I've been talking to Mara about some investment opportunities. If you've got extra capital from the shop, I could... No thanks. His smile tightened. Just trying to help family, man. Are you? Before he could respond, Victor appeared. Aaron, the mayor's here. Wants to say hi. I excused myself and walked away. Across the crowd, I saw Mara watching us. The afternoon continued. More people arrived. The mayor gave a short speech about local businesses. Customers shared stories about the shop. Through it all, I watched my family. Watched Mara circulate, acting like she'd been part of this success all along. Watched Tessa take selfies. Watched Jamie hang close to Nolan. At 4 o'clock, the band took a break, and I stepped up to the microphone. Can I have everyone's attention? The crowd quieted, turning toward me. Hundreds of faces, all looking at me. First, I want to thank all of you for coming today. When I opened this shop 12 years ago, I had no idea if it would work. I was just a guy who liked cutting hair and wanted to build something I could be proud of. A few people clapped. Over the years, this shop became more than just a business. It became a community, and you all made that possible. More applause. I saw Mara near the front, smiling. A lot of people told me I was wasting my time, that I should aim higher, stop settling for something so small. Maybe cutting hair isn't the most prestigious career. Maybe this shop isn't going to make me rich or famous. I paused, looking directly at Mara, then at Nolan. But it's mine. Every client I built, every dollar I earned, every improvement I made, that was me, not anyone else. Me. The crowd was quiet now. Which is why I'm excited to announce that as of last week, I purchased this property. And starting next month, we're expanding into the space next door, bringing on another barber, adding retail, growing this business into something even bigger. People erupted in applause and cheers. I saw genuine surprise on Mara's face. But there's more, I said. I also want to recognize some people who've been instrumental in getting to this point. I gestured to Victor. Victor Lane, who taught me that loyalty and respect are earned, not demanded. Victor nodded. Dr. Lorne from the community college, who pushed me to finish my degree even when I wanted to quit. And Callie Trent, my attorney, who helped me understand my worth and protect what I've built. Mara's smile was gone now. These people showed up for me when it mattered. They supported me when I needed it. They saw value in what I was trying to do, even when others didn't. The crowd was completely silent. Unfortunately, not everyone in my life has been supportive. Some people treated this shop, and me, like we didn't matter. Like we were embarrassing, or beneath them, or not worth their time. 3 weeks ago, I graduated from a 2-year vocational program. It meant something to me. I worked for it. And on that day, when I walked across that stage to get my diploma, the 4 seats reserved for my family sat empty. Because they had somewhere better to be. Tessa's face went red. Jamie looked at the ground. Mara stared at me, frozen. That's when I realized something. I'd spent 20 years trying to earn respect from people who were never going to give it. And I accepted it. I let them treat me like I was lucky to have them instead of the other way around. Nolan tried to laugh it off. Aaron, come on, man. I'm not done, I said. Let's talk about how you've spent years positioning yourself as a better version of me to my own family. How you've taken my wife's confidence, my kids' admiration, and used them to make yourself feel important. That's not... Let's talk about the $15,000 my wife has transferred to accounts connected to your business over the last year. Transfers I didn't authorize. Nolan's face went white. Mara looked like she'd been struck. Let's talk about how you took my son to your house while undermining me every chance you got. How you threw parties my family would rather attend than come to my graduation. Aaron, Mara said, her voice shaking. Stop. Why? Because I'm making a scene? No, Mara, I'm being honest. For the first time in years, I'm being completely honest. I pulled the folder from behind the microphone stand and held it up. This folder contains several documents. So property deeds showing this building is now fully mine. Business licenses showing the shop expansion is registered solely in my name. And most importantly, dissolution papers separating my assets from marital property and protecting everything I've built. Mara's eyes went wide. You're not serious. I've never been more serious. These papers were filed yesterday. You can't do this. I already did. The crowd watched in silence. Dad, Tessa said, you're embarrassing yourself. Am I? Or am I finally standing up after years of being pushed down? This is insane, Nolan said. No, I said calmly. I'm protecting myself from people who've proven they don't value me. I looked at each of them, Mara, Tessa, Jamie, Nolan. You had every chance to show me I mattered. You chose not to, so now I'm choosing me. Mara was crying now. After everything I've done. What have you done for me, Mara? You've spent years using me as an ATM while treating me like hired help. You've let your brother-in-law replace me as a father figure. You've mocked my work, skipped my graduation, and made it clear that I'm only valuable as long as I stay quiet and keep paying the bills. That's not fair. Life's not fair. I learned that 3 weeks ago when I sat alone at my graduation. I turned back to the crowd. To everyone else here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting this shop, for believing in what I was building, for showing up. You've given me something my own family couldn't. Respect. The band started playing again. The crowd slowly began to move, though everyone kept glancing at where Mara stood crying, where Nolan looked ready to explode. Victor appeared at my side. Well, that happened. Yeah. How do you feel? I looked around at the shop, at the crowd, at everything I'd built. Free, I said. I feel free. The party continued for another hour, though the energy had shifted. People were quieter, but they stayed. Mara left within minutes, dragging Tessa with her. Nolan followed shortly after, shooting me looks of pure hatred. Jamie lingered, standing near the food truck. I found him around 5:30, sitting on the curb. You okay? I asked. He didn't look up. Everyone's talking about us. I know. Did you have to do it like that? I sat down next to him. Would anyone have believed me otherwise? I don't know. Jamie, this isn't about punishing you. This is about me finally saying enough. Enough of what? Enough of being invisible. Enough of working my entire life just to be told I don't matter. He was quiet. Then, Uncle Nolan said you were jealous of him. I'm done competing with him in my own house. Jamie picked at the sidewalk. Mom's really mad. She has a right to be. Then why'd you do it? Because I needed witnesses. If I'd done this privately, they would have twisted it. But now everyone heard the truth. Jamie stood up. I need to think about this. Fair enough. He walked toward Mara's car. As he got in, I saw her look at me through the windshield. Pure fury. They drove away. The cleanup took until almost 8. Victor stayed to help. By the time we finished, the shop looked normal again. You know this is just the beginning, right? Victor said. I know. They're going to fight. Let them. I've got documentation for everything. I locked up and drove home. The house was dark. Mara's car in the driveway, but all the lights off. She was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, paper spread everywhere. I've been looking at our finances, she said coldly. And? You've been planning this for a while. The separate account, the property purchase. I was protecting my assets. Your assets? These are our assets. Name one thing you helped me build. She slammed the laptop shut. I raised your children. I managed this household. You tolerated me as long as I stayed quiet. That's not true. Then where were you at my graduation? We're back to this again. We never left it. You think it was one small thing, but it was the final proof of something I'd been seeing for years. Mara stood up. I talked to a lawyer today. He says you can't just decide to separate everything. This shop? I owned it before we got married. The house? Only my name on the deed. Your lawyer will tell you the same thing. You're entitled to something, but not nearly as much as you think. You're destroying our family over pride. No, Mara. You destroyed our family by forgetting I was part of it. She stared at me, and for just a second I saw something other than anger. But it passed quickly. The kids hate you right now, she said. They'll get over it, or they won't. But at least they'll know their father has a spine. Nolan says... I don't care what Nolan says. She grabbed her keys. I'm staying at Nolan's tonight. Wasn't planning to call you anyway. She left, slamming the door. I stood in the empty kitchen, listening to her car drive away. Then I went upstairs and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept through the entire night. Sunday morning, my phone exploded with notifications. The video from yesterday had gone viral locally. People were sharing it, commenting, picking sides. I didn't read most of it. Victor called around 9. You see the video? Hard to miss. You okay? I'm better than okay. I'm free. Around noon, my phone rang. Callie. Mara's attorney contacted me this morning. They want to meet. Already? Your public announcement expedited things. They're concerned about damage control. Good. Let them be concerned. The meeting's Tuesday. I'll handle it. You just stay calm. I'm the calmest I've been in years. I spent the afternoon at the shop, going through paperwork, planning the expansion. Around 3, the door opened. I looked up. Jamie stood in the doorway. Can I come in? He asked. Of course. He walked in slowly, looking around like he was seeing the place for the first time. It's different when it's empty. Yeah. Uncle Nolan says you're being selfish. He would say that. Jamie sat in one of the chairs. But Mom's been crying all day, and Tessa won't come out of her room. I'm sorry they're hurting. Are you? I looked at my son. Yes. I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I couldn't keep drowning just to make them comfortable. Is that what you were doing? Drowning? For years. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry we didn't come to your graduation. The words hung in the air between us. Thank you, I said. I didn't think it mattered that much. Mom said it was just a ceremony. It mattered to me. I know that now. He looked down at his hands. Uncle Nolan's not really going to help me with college, is he? Probably not. That's not how he works. And you will? I've been saving for your college since you were born. That money's still there, still yours. Jamie's eyes turned misty. I've treated you poorly. You're 14. It's your job to slip up sometimes. Dad. Jamie, listen. This situation is hard. It's going to be hard for a while. But I need you to know something. No matter what happens with your mom, no matter how angry anyone gets, I'm still your father. I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere." He nodded, wiping his eyes. We sat there for a while, not saying much, just existing in the same space without fighting or tension or anyone trying to be someone they weren't. Eventually, he stood up. "I should get back before Mom freaks out." "Okay." At the door, he turned back. "Dad, I'm glad you stood up for yourself." After he left, I sat alone in my shop. My phone buzzed. A text from Victor. "How you holding up?" "Better than expected," I typed back. I looked around at the empty chairs, the mirrors, the walls I'd painted myself 12 years ago. This place had been my sanctuary when everything else was falling apart. And now it was the foundation of something new. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification. Someone had left a 5-star review on the shop's page. "Best barber in town. More than that, best person. Showed real courage yesterday. This community is lucky to have you." Then another review came in, and another. I smiled and set my phone face down on the counter. Outside, the sun was setting over the neighborhood. People walked by with their dogs, their kids, their normal Sunday evening routines. Life continued, and for the first time in 20 years, I was finally living mine.